Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
Welcome to the Get Geek podcast. My name is Gabe, and I am joined by Jose and AJ.
Actually, my name is Morgot today.
Your name is what?
Morgot.
Morgot will explain a little bit later why his name is now Morgot. But for now, I want to thank you guys for joining the podcast. We got a cool conversation for you guys today. But before we get into that, please hit that like, rate, share, and subscribe button. Best way to support this little podcast that we got going on, so that we can keep doing it every single week. So, Morgot, what the hell is Morgot?
What's that?
And Jose, are you ready?
I'm ready. It's been a while.
Are you ready? Are you 2 weeks out ready?
For the season finale of Halo? That's a week out, I think. No, I know.
The other thing in 2 weeks.
I'm excited.
We don't need to discuss the event, but major events gonna happen in the Melgar family, in the Melgar clan.
I'm super excited, and I've been keeping this bit of information close to the chest.
We can keep it close to the chest
as well.
I want to know if you were excited.
Not just that though. I got a new job as well.
You did?
Yeah.
That's nice.
What?
Yeah. My favorite part, it's 100% remote. I don't have to go to
what?
no dang office or none of that.
Hold up.
Yeah. And I start
Wait a minute.
I start just a few days after the other event that you're referring to. It's like a whole new beginning. It's pretty cool.
It's a whole new world.
With another interview this week that might be even better, also 100% remote.
Really?
So cross my fingers.
Is it in networking?
No, it's still level 1 IT, but it's got more of a growth path than where I'm working now. Even though I enjoy
awesome,
where I'm
man.
working now, I'm pretty excited. Yeah. I'm super excited about it.
Being 100% remote, I don't think that there's anything better than being remote, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I don't believe in this kind of stuff, but I was at a party or a book club / party with my fiance yesterday, and I pulled a tarot card after I asked a profession related question, and it was a very good answer from the tarot card. So I will believe it in this instance, just because it was a good answer.
nice.
Anyways,
Morgot?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's Morgot, please?
Morgot is the last of all kings. He is the grace given. He is the man that prevents the tarnished from entering the great earth.
This is an Elden Ring thing.
He who remains.
Kind of. Like Elden Ring's version of that, I guess.
Does he kind of exist outside of time also, or is it something?
He's very present.
It's funny because after I finished Halo Infinite yesterday.
Nice.
Want to chat about that.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I was done, I don't know. It's like, I kind of go through phases, right? Like I'm in kind of a gaming phase right now, which is why I have not seen Moon Knight. But I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to watch it. But I've been a little bit in this gaming phase. And now that I finished Infinite, now I think I'm ready to tackle Elden Ring, So I'm thinking about like purchasing that. I'm thinking about like I'm looking at videos. I see how daunting it is. So I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for it. Mentally ready to take on like how hard is it?
Yeah, Sekiro almost broke you down. So
Sekiro did break me down. I stopped playing that game after a week. I'm really mad that I spent the money for that game.
I'll put it this way. Once you find your footing, you can get through the game. Because once I found my footing, Wait,
hold on. Wait a minute. Are you saying there's a question of whether someone can get through the game or not? Like this is something.
Well, see, it all depends on this one boss. Now, this boss is optional, but if you're a completionist like me, you want to get all the shards of
I'm
the
definitely
Elden
not a
Ring.
completionist.
All right,
I don't
so
have
then
that
if
kind of
you're
time.
not, then you can skip
I got
this
adult
boss.
responsibilities.
Wait.
Completionist. What adult is a completionist?
Is it like, is this game like a matter of having a high level to like make it so that it's not insanely difficult? Because I feel like
It's
It
a grinder.
certainly helps.
yeah,
It certainly
Yeah.
helps.
because I'm sure the enemies scale as well, but like a lot of games, even still, when they scale, once you get to higher levels and have higher amounts of skills, you're usually just way better off. Because I feel so weak at like level 20 or whatever the heck my character is. I haven't played a lot. Such a grindy game. Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know, man. I don't know if I'm ready for the grind. Then
I wouldn't say okay. So there is a way, because the way it works is the only time the bosses get stronger, quote unquote, is when you do new game. Like when you beat
what
the
do you mean?
game and it's like
hmm
you start a new game. But the bosses, as you encounter them, I guess don't
They don't. They
grow.
don't scale like to
No,
your
they do
level.
not. You can completely blow past them in
Oh,
terms of leveling.
interesting. Okay, and then you can much more easily dispatch them.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, see, yeah, that makes it. That makes me. It gives me more hope because I've been like very ADHD with all of the things that I've been consuming lately. I've been watching YouTube videos and playing quick games of NBA 2K22 as like my gaming and whatever distractions. So like that's why I haven't played Elden Ring either. You know, adult responsibilities plus like an
Yeah.
inability to like sit and focus on something for that long
Yes.
right now. You know.
Word.
Yeah. Certainly takes some focus.
hmm
It's been a
Definitely
couple months
helps.
now.
It definitely helps me. Like, I think that like what's happened to me with me in gaming is that I've been in this like retro gaming kick just because like retro games are so, kind of simple and easy and fun, and you can do them in various different ways. And I don't know if you guys saw like through my Instagram, but like I got a imported Japanese candy cab arcade.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't see that. No,
You didn't see
I
that?
don't think so.
Oh,
I
dude.
I'm
So
gonna go check.
don't.
so
I feel like I remember you mentioning that at some
so I
point.
got I got I got a candy arcade, and for those of you guys that don't know, a candy arcade is essentially a sit down or stand up, but 99% of them are sit down arcades that were made in Japan, Japanese style arcades where they've got like they're made out of plastic, mostly plastic and metal. They have uh, you know colorful, like they're cotton candy colored buttons and joysticks and stuff, which is kind of where they get the name Candy Arcade. Um, but they've become like, sort of like this super retro resurgence because in Japan, the arcade businesses are all closing down, and Sega recently announced that all their arcade shops are closing down. So there's like a mass sell off of these arcade machines.
Mhm.
Sega had I guess a network or franchises of arcade, businesses using all of their machines, and because they've shut down all their locations, a lot of these machines are being sold off.
Mm.
However, because they don't make any of these machines we're talking about, like the most, some like as far as the candy cabinets go, the I think the last one before it went to like LCD and all that other stuff, as far as the original CRT candy cabs go, the last one was produced in 1996. So
Hmm.
these things have become like super rare, and whereas originally they're like $500-$600, for a cabinet, they're now ranging in the $2,000 to $3,000 if you got, and they're not in mint condition at all.
Ooh.
But we're talking about if you had like a mint condition cab, we're talking about like $4,000 to $5,000 just for the cabinet, no game inside, nothing.
Hmm.
So I got
Okay.
lucky,
Jeez.
and
That's amazing.
and got part of uh, a group buy where a you kind of sign on to like buy a candy cab, or someone that's importing a bunch, but you have to wait till the entire group buy is done so that they can ship it on a container, so to say it's a ton cheaper for you. Otherwise you'd have to be
Mhm.
paying that $3,000 to $4,000 premium price tag if you're just trying to buy it for someone local.
Mhm.
I bought one, I set it up, I hooked it up to this thing called a Mr. FPGA, which is like basically a little mini computer specifically for arcade retro games, um, and was loving it. And then something shorted out on the CRT monitor,
Jeez.
and it's dead
Oh
again.
no! Oh god!
It was kind of my fault though. I
Damn.
think it was definitely my fault. I have it in the dojo, and one day that I came in, it was already super humid from the training, and there was like condensation and stuff on it. And then I turned it on, and all you hear
Oh,
is like this pop, crackle, and pop.
Yeah.
But I turned it off. It dried out. I turned it on. It was fine the next 2-3 days, but then all of a sudden it crapped out. So
Oh,
um,
damn!
some probably one of the reasons why LCDs and LEDs are much more durable now.
yeah. 100%. Those old CRT televisions, once one of those pixels popped, it was over.
But let me show you a picture. I gotta show you a picture. I mean, I'll like maybe I'll post a picture on the Get Geek IG page also.
Yeah, I hadn't seen
But
that.
it's been a little bit of a project. But check this out. Okay.
Yeah,
Dang!
Marvel versus Capcom, Marvel superhero, Marvel
Yeah.
superheroes.
Marvel Super. Well, the thing
Nice.
is that like my little the Mr. FPGA has like 6,000 ROMs, including every single fighting game up to Marvel vs. Capcom in there. So it's super dope. I'm having a ton of fun
Nice,
with it, and I'm excited about all that. So,
nice.
Cool, cool.
speaking of gaming, though, Infinite. There's like stuff going on with like the Halo
Okay,
show, and then
so
I just
I
played Infinite. So you mentioned that you wanted to like ask me some stuff, but Jose, did you play Infinite?
I haven't beaten it, but I've definitely played it. I don't think I'm
Okay,
very far because I think I'm still on that first island or whatever it is. I was exploring a lot and like,
there
you
kind of
know,
is just the one island though.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, it said something about getting to a different island or getting to a
Mm,
different area after some mission I just
mm.
completed. So I guess it's
Yeah,
like close by, or maybe it's not really an island,
yeah. I think you're
but a
definitely
nearby
still in
area.
like the first part because AJ, if you remember, I was kind of complaining about like, oh man, I don't know if I like this freeform stuff and all
yeah.
that, but like I think the game introduces you to like this open space, open world type gameplay. But as soon as you actually do get into the campaign, you don't actually stop until you finish the campaign, and then at the end you go back to kind of this Ghost of Tsushima style, traveling across the islands to like free stuff and expand on the story, I guess.
Free the
But
island. Yeah, yeah.
Morgoth, sorry, I confused you for a moment for
Morgoth.
this other guy named
Yes.
AJ.
Morgoth
AJ,
the
such a
murderous.
lame name. Morgoth, so cool.
Yes. So, questions. What did you? So now I want to know. What did you think of the story in its grand completion?
All right, so I don't want to spoil anything necessarily for Jose, but uh so I thought that the story was good, not great.
Sounds about
Um
right.
Mainly not because of the story itself, but because I actually did not really like too much of the writing. I felt that okay, Master Chief is Master Chief, and we'll delineate the difference between Master Chief and Master Cheeks a little bit later. But but Master Chief is, he's a little bit drier, but I felt like in this game his dialogue, his lines were a little bit too static soldier, not so many one-liners, not even though like there were plenty of moments that make you feel like, oh, this is the Master Chief of old, where it's like he wants to be, the first one to the fight, the last hope, and the whole nine. In his actions, I didn't feel that in his dialogue. So I felt like
Okay.
the writing for Master Chief wasn't that great, and then I felt like there was too much exposition on the other side of things with Cortana and the weapon and what's his name, the one that keeps like badgering you all the way until the end through like through VR messages. I forget his name because that's not
yeah,
obviously that's
it's
not Altriox. That's
oh,
the
you're talking
protagonist or
about
the
the Brute.
antagonist.
That's
the
Escharum.
brute. Yeah. So it's like I felt like all right, there was too many of his like messages,
He's like a
you know,
Bond villain, kind of.
sort of, but like like I thought that there was just a little bit too much exposition with him. Like if you take out, I think 30% of some of those like VR messages that he sends to Master Chief, I think that his other dialogue towards the end would have been better.
I feel
What did
like
you, what yeah.
I feel like that's partially a response to like how goofy the first brutes looked in the original Halo Infinite trailers. They're like, no, look how great this character looks now. We're gonna like
Maybe I will say, man,
overload it.
the brutes
Looks good.
were definitely brutal in this one. I thought that there was because there's some brutes that like they kind of go like on a berserker. You get too close and they just drop everything and they just start rushing you. They don't care about the getting shot and like
Yeah.
sometimes you get caught off guard and you're like, what the hell? But what about you? What did you think about the story?
Oh man. So like, here's the thing. I thought, like you, it was good, not great. It was definitely a step up from Halo 5.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the things I could not reconcile, though, was having a certain character more or less killed off screen. That didn't sit right with me.
Um.
'Cause that's a
Yeah,
character we've all come to
we
know
spoke
and
about this.
love.
You spoke about this, and I understand that. I do understand that, but I think that that the game and this story was very clearly meant to like, all right, let's put the previous era of Halo behind us and let's try to clean it up as best as possible because 343 did kind of make a mess of things with Halo 5 and even Halo 4 to a certain extent, but definitely Halo 5. And I think this was 343's way of like, all right, let's try to like clean up certain images and certain things that happen in the story, and then let's put it behind us and kind of start anew. It's still a continuation, but it is sort of kind of like them rectifying a major terrible decision I think they did with a certain character in the storyline.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I liked the way they kind of had this system set up, like the whole there's a regional boss and this brute
Yeah.
wields a hammer. There's one where it's like two hunters even.
Yeah, I
Like
do.
all those
I do like it. And it's funny because one of the complaints that I have with the show is that it doesn't, the Halo show, and just, using it as a comparison, even though it's very well stated that the show is not part of this canon, it's on a silver timeline and the whole nine, regardless of timelines, the characters and the stories should feel similar, even if it's not the same storylines, right? And one of the things that I felt that have been missing the entire series is the moments in the game that you get with Master Chief where it's like, these moments where you get goosebumps. Like, do you remember it's towards the end, but there's the moment that you end up like taking on a tank. At least I took on a tank, and all of a sudden you hear like that classic not take on like but you ride a tank and you're like going through to, I guess, to face like the final brute.
Escharum.
Yeah. I'm never gonna remember any of their names. That's one other gripe that I have with Halo right now. The names of all like the villains and all like they're just kind of ridiculous.
I was just gonna say,
Escherum's not bad,
Yeah.
but
even the trailers, the Halo trailers are like
Yeah.
way more epic than a lot of the stuff that I feel like we've seen on this show. Like the Halo 3 trailer, just watching him
Oh
walk
my
out
god,
of the
the
desert.
Halo 3 trailer gives me goosebumps to this day.
It's one of the best gaming trailers of all time. It's up there with like the Gears of War.
That whole
all
campaign, that whole Halo 3 campaign to finish the fight was just so good.
Yep.
But so there's this like this one section where you're on your way basically to face that final brute, and as soon as I mounted the tank, you know, the classic Halo, like the drum beats go, and like you know, and while you're blowing everybody up on the way to like the end, and like I just got goosebumps, and I was like, damn, this is what's missing from the show. The moment where like Master Chief decides like, hey, I'm taking a fight to them, and all of a sudden like that music hits, and you just see like complete rampage, and I missed that. I love that this game gave it to us because I felt like we didn't have that in Halo 5. And the game kind of brought us back to some of those feelings and moments that we had in the original trilogy. Um, so that's why I mean that I feel like it was kind of rectifying some of their mistakes with how they designed Halo 5 and stuff, as well as some of the character issues. But it also goes to show what I feel like are like the major differences between Halo and Master Chief as we know him, and Halo and Master Chief's how the silver screen knows him.
Now, I guess my final question for Infinite is this. The game tries to give you something that's quote unquote worse than the Flood. What did you think of their intro?
Uh, I, you know, for them to be worse than the Flood. So here's the thing, right? Like the Flood was just really, really annoying. But from a story perspective, the Flood was very scary because it's like, hey, like this is like basically a virus that's unkillable that affects the entire universe and every single living organism, which is why the Halo rings were created in the first place. It was like, hey, like we have to solve this problem because either the Flood's going to kill all living creatures and there's not going to be any future, or we kind of hit the reset button on the universe. Is the idea of the Halo rings, right? Am I wrong? Yeah,
Yep,
that's
right.
basically it, right? So while dealing with the Flood in game was just made basically kind of like a zombie-esque annoyance at times, I didn't feel that kind of like dearth in presence from those beings
Okay.
that were introduced in this game. I didn't think like that it's that serious. But then again, like I don't know if it's going to like be, because I also felt like this game is meant to be a bridge to what the real next story is going to be, because you saw the post credit scene, right?
I'm having a very hard time
Has to
remembering
do
it.
with Atriox, has to do with these
Oh
little
my god! Okay.
cartridges.
Oh
Okay.
my god.
And I
I'm
mean, like
sorry.
we should definitely like. I know
Atriox
that there's some
pisses
other
me
stuff that
off
we want
so
to chat
much.
about. So I definitely want to get to some of that stuff, especially
Yes,
since like
we
Jose
let's move
hasn't played
on
the
now.
game. But no, I
Let's
do
move
need
on.
to ask you though. I do need to ask you like the ending was very interesting because the ending was super mysterious. There's literally like none of it really made sense or pertain to the game itself, but it's clearly meant to be like, hey, like let's give you all these mysterious, unexplained crumbs now that are obviously going to explain only in the next era of Halo. Did you see the legendary ending or the regular ending?
Oh no, that's not a game I played on Legendary.
Because there's a separate post credit, and this is something that Halo's always done. There's a a different post credit depending on the difficulty. So
Mm-hmm.
I did not play it on legendary either, by the way, but I definitely YouTube the ending. And the ending is really really interesting.
Okay.
I'm
Lay
trying to
on
get
me.
to it
I
on
mean,
Legendary.
we can't really
You
talk
can't.
about it. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh dang it!
I
Oh,
can't really
you
talk
can't.
about it.
You can't
But
say it's mad
so the thing,
interesting
all right.
like that.
So
I'm
the
gonna
thing
mute
is,
myself
there's a
for a second.
conversation. There's a conversation between two beings, and we don't know if that's in the present or the past, and it has to do with, um, control or ending of the entire universe.
Oh,
So
okay.
it definitely like brings up the stakes
I totally
again.
muted my audio, or if you guys want to talk about it, and just signal me
You
when you're
did?
done.
You did? Did you mute it?
He can't hear us.
Oh, like right now? All right. So dude, all right. So Atriox, right?
Okay.
He has like at the very end, obviously he's like this big bad that he seems to be like the kind of guy that's not just your average brute. He's very smart in dealing with things. But there's the conversation between damn, I forget exactly the terms of them, but it has to do with like the endless. I don't know if you like
Yeah,
what. How much do you know about the endless?
I know that though they're the dudes that are supposed to be worse than the flood. They apparently have
Yes,
something to do with the Halo rings that
yes,
even the Forerunners were like,
yes,
let's
yes.
appropriate this
Well, so it seems like the
somehow.
endless and the forerunners are against each other, right?
Yeah.
The endless have like a beef with the forerunners or whatever it is. Um, but I don't know exactly where. So it's basically, I think that what it is that Atriox is trying to call on the endless, kind of bring them about in the whole nine, which would bring back like this whole like, man, like, the universe is in peril again, and they're going to use the halos again. There's going to be this war, I guess, between like somehow between the forerunners and the endless. But I think Atriox just wants to bring them back so that they can like kind of bring back their peoples, considering that there has been a hint of time travel now.
I'm sorry, what?
Don't you remember the very end that
I
when
don't.
Master Chief and the weapon, because we don't officially know her new name, when they went through the portal, they
Oh,
skipped
yes,
three
that's
days.
right.
That I think they
I
did that
don't
just to show that like, okay, there's time travel happening.
I don't like that already. I don't want time
I do.
travel in Halo.
You can't get away from it, because when it has to do anything that has to do with space, okay, and the fabric of time, you have to deal with wormholes.
No.
And what better way? The thing is, I want time travel only because we never really got a chance to get a good forerunner story. So I think that going into time travel to go back and kind of like show us better storylines that have to do with forerunners, or maybe go back and I don't know. I feel I'm okay with time travel, because time travel
I'm
is a
not.
really good way to fix mess ups and mistakes.
Sorry, I'm not. I'm just not
Well,
on
all
board
right, so
with
that
that.
remains to be seen. But I do think that I think that there's enough in the end of Infinite to have me really intrigued.
Okay.
Are
All
you
right.
excited for the rest of it?
I just want to see how quote unquote bad the endless end up becoming, because if that falls stale, I'm just gonna laugh at it.
I
I
hope
really am.
I hope not. I hope not. I do hope that it's a legitimate, big bad. Anyway, should we tell him to unmute now?
Yeah,
All right,
we're all
Jose.
good in the hood.
I
Am I
believe I'm
pointing?
being
There he
signaled to
is.
return.
Dude, actually, yeah. Why don't we do that from now on? Anytime we need to like chat about something or we need to spoil each other, we could just mute each other. I didn't think about that.
Boy, that makes me feel really dumb that we didn't think about that for several years of podcasting.
Oh, also,
We
everyone
like
that's listening,
we like
we
step
also
away.
totally completely forgot
We like leave.
to let you know that we're spoiling stuff right now. So I hope you guys have all played Infinite then.
I don't know though. Infinite is not in a good place. It's really not.
It's not.
Oh
It's
man,
not. But again, I look at it as a bridge. So
now I have to finish it. Like you guys were like kind of
I
praising
yeah,
it
I think
before,
you
and
know
then
what I
three
think
minutes
you
later, it's
do.
like, oh no.
I think that the game has really good pacing, so I think that like if you get into the campaign itself, I think you'll get through it relatively quickly.
See, that's the thing though. The campaign.
Yeah, the side missions are, so
No,
far.
no,
Yeah,
not. That's not what I was talking about. But let's just
All
move
right,
on.
all right.
That's a whole other. That's gonna open up a whole other can of worms, and I'm gonna be here for like half an hour just
can of cheeks,
ranting.
can of cheek.
Cheeks cans.
Oh
How do you
no,
guys feel about
not
John
this now.
117 man, you know what? Like AJ, you're an adult, you know. How do you feel about what John 117 bumping uglies on the show?
Okay,
Oh wait, guys, spoiler.
so
Sorry, guys, spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
here we go
In the
again.
last episode,
Spoiler alert.
I'm doing a really bad job today of that.
It's but I don't know. Like, here's the thing. He it's never really been brought. Well, it has been brought up before. Like, you know, that whole inhibitor thing that Chief has. That's an actual thing,
Yeah, yeah, I
and
know.
he's always been suppressed on that level. So I guess once you take that out, that's gonna happen. But
It's a
did we
possibility. It
really
doesn't mean it's
need
gonna
it?
happen
Yeah,
in
like
the first season.
I
I can see
I
it.
mean
It's like being in prison for 10 years.
the one thing I will say, and this is just them story wise, the only reason why I did not throw a controller at the screen is because at least they did the decency of saying they're like super in sync right now. But even then, it still looks really bad that he.
I love the
I mean, not
I
okay.
love the
This is
gaming roots of your
weird now,
rage.
but
She's his
like,
prisoner.
Throw a controller.
yeah, it's
She's
like
his prisoner.
I. That was just such a weird thing to do, guys. What?
I do want to know from
Three,
Jose,
four,
like what exactly,
three.
what did you feel when you saw it? Because when I saw it, I didn't even finish the episode before I texted you guys, like, "Hey, we need to talk about this. You guys need to watch."
I remember like that message, and you're like, it's not even 20 minutes in, and I don't know what the heck this episode is doing. And I remember looking at the time of the episode when this was happening, and it was like 1907 when he was doing his 90s like music, like bump uglies, as you call it, because that's kind of what I was picturing in my head too.
It was kind of like Skinamax.
I heard like Genuine in my head, and like,
Oh my god,
like all this like 90s R&B music. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
oh god.
It further reinforces my thoughts that like that's how I think of all these shows now. Immediately I'm like, what would I have done differently? And this immediately reinforces my idea that this show, at least in the first season, should not have had Master Chief as a main character. I think it should have had other characters. Like I like Kai. I've talked about it before. I think Kai is actually the most interesting character on the show. And she's not even a great character.
Yeah,
but she's better than the other ones. Like Quan, I don't care about Quan Ha. I don't care about whatever, whoever Bokeem Woodbine's character is. I forgot his name.
Vanek.
The one who's escorting
Soren.
Quan Ha.
Yeah, Soren.
Oh,
Soren. Yeah.
Soren.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a weird choice. I know that again, I'm not this Halo super fan that y'all are, so
that's why it's interesting, because I want to like I do want to know exactly, because I know where all the Halo fans stand on this. So it is interesting because clearly the show is geared towards the I would say the casuals or the non-video game fans, I guess.
I mean, the thing that's great about Halo as far as Master Chief as your avatar, right? It's the same thing, the same reason that a lot of people like games like Half-Life 2, for instance, because you are a character in the game, but like the character in Half-Life 2 doesn't speak. So like in a way, it lets you inhabit the character more. It's just character speaking to you, and Master Chief speaks, but he still kind of lets you inhabit him as a character because he doesn't speak a lot necessarily. And if he's speaking, it's about like the situation at hand, as far as I see.
I guess. Right? See, and it's funny because I mentioned this before on a previous cast that like I don't necessarily think that I don't see it that way. I almost kind of feel like that's a new narrative that was given to us by the marketing. I mean, AJ, growing up playing Halo, did you ever feel like you were Master Chief, or that you're going through someone else's story?
Not entirely. I think it's definitely different, but like I think that's part of what makes Master Chief an interesting character, that he's not totally fleshed out until later games, maybe, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I did always feel like I was playing like a mysterious character with his own identity, just an identity that I didn't know, but I never felt like I was like, I know what you're talking about was like Half-Life, Half-Life, okay, because I did play it, and yeah, games like that, it was a little jarring in the beginning, but then when you kind of realize it's almost kind of like Knights in the Old Republic, in a way where you're playing a character that it feels like this is you, these are your choices, and this is your story. I never felt that way about any of the Halo games.
Okay. I mean, I will say that that choice still felt strange because I think I really think that they're giving him too much character development for one season. Like I know that
Yeah,
sounds weird,
yeah.
but it's just jumping into all this, and it's unearned. That's the biggest problem, right?
That's,
He's
I think, the biggest issue, right? I
going
think
through it
that
too
it's like,
fast.
yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's all this character development, without needing it.
For a
You
bunch
know,
of
I think that,
characters too. I feel like a lot of
yeah, I mean,
unearned
I
character
like,
development.
yeah, I think that it's basically the same thing as like too much exposition.
Hmm.
It's not exactly too much exposition,
Yep.
but I mean, at times it is. But it's just not enough, not enough like world building, not enough story setting, not enough background, and it's
Oh my!
all character
No,
development.
I
Like if you
like that.
just do all,
I
yeah,
like how you put it because I feel like it is expository. It turns the characters
yeah,
into expository elements, right? Into
yeah, like without needing it.
plot
You know,
point.
it's like, like conversations are great, but when you don't need the conversation, why have it?
Hmm.
You want to know how unoriginal? I mean, not unoriginal. How lazy the world building has been. Like actually,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
it took Twitter to point this out as usual. But
Hmm.
you know how they're mostly on Planet Reach and they're in that city.
Yeah.
So it's called Reach City,
Right.
right?
Yes.
But that city actually has a name.
In the games, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they
It's
Wait, what is it?
called New Alexandria.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So
And then you
like
also have like New Mombasa, and you have like
yeah.
all these other
exactly.
cities. They could have totally explored all these. Oh my goodness.
So
Completely
like
forgot about that.
they
Reach
didn't
City.
even they didn't even do the like that shows
Well,
me how bad like they were like I mean I get they're trying to make a new story but dude
yeah.
Reach City
Well, look at,
seriously
but look at this. Let's think about episode 6 and 7, right? Or yeah, 6 and 7, which was the episode 6 was the all about Master Chief episode, and then episode 7 was the all about Quan episode, right?
Yeah.
Um, the episode 6, a whole hour long episode with just Master Chief and everything that has to do with UNSC, and it's still like just all in like these 3 or 4 rooms
Yeah.
on that base.
Hmm.
Like you could have, like, if you're gonna spend an entire episode essentially in Reach City, you could have like done a whole lot more. Like that was a chance to kind of show me more about like not just the facility, but the spaces around it, the outside world, and so on and so forth.
You know what I think kind of is holding the show back that I don't think a lot of people have thought about?
Not
I
enough shooting.
No, I mean I think it's
I'm joking.
more like real life logistical type stuff. I think it's too expensive to make the show that we all really want. I mean, think about it. How expensive would it be to have those action scenes fill up like half an episode? Like for most of these episodes, the show is already super expensive as it is. Apparently, right? It's one of the most expensive TV
I
shows ever made.
suppose so.
So, like, I feel like partially, at least, that might be a reason why you're getting a lot more of these character moments. You're getting Master Chief out of the armor. You're getting a lot of stuff that doesn't require CGI, and you're getting sort of these rush character moments. Whereas, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on this, right? This is a product of it being a video game too, but a lot of Master Chief's character development happens in battle in the games.
yeah
Happens
it,
because of
it
stuff
really
in
Does
battle.
does
it though?
though
It
Not all
happens
of
in
it, not
between.
all of it,
Yeah,
but a lot of it,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, but that's because of the fact that it is a
yeah,
game.
100%. But
But you like, if you play the game, if you watch the games, right? Let's say you go to YouTube and you just watch all the cutscenes. A lot of his character development does mainly happen in the events that happen between him and Cortana and the UNSC, and his reaction
yes,
to it. You play the reactions, but
yes,
those reactions are, yeah, they do happen through battle. But that being said, though, I tend to disagree simply because we have, if Halo, if this came out before the Mandalorian, then I would have said yes, I agree with you. But in the Mandalorian, every single episode is a whole new world, and every single episode is good character development and good acting without ever taking your helmet off. So I think that, you know and it's not like they don't have the same amount of money because they're investing the same amount of money into Halo that they did into the Mandalorian. I mean, for God's sakes, they've already, before the show even came out, they already, renewed a second season and, I believe started pre-production on it as well. So the money is there. I just think that like there's one show that does it as an example, one show that executed it very well, another one that did not execute it well, and Halo's just not, it's like they're misspending the money, I think, in my opinion.
I see your point, sort of, but I think AJ, a better example of what he's talking about might be not necessarily the Mandalorian. I don't think, because there's not a lot of CGI space battles and like things like that, but maybe something like The Expanse, where you have a lot of episodes where there's a lot of space CGI, there's a lot of space battles, and they still like squeeze it in there and have the budget for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Well,
holding it back.
here's the thing: like,
the
how
other
many
thing-
how many space battles happen in Halo? All the battles happen on land.
Well,
Here's the one thing I will say:
CGI villain, like enemies, right? Like Star Wars, Mandalorian doesn't have as much of that, so that's why space battles is a good analog. But I'm kind of agreeing with your point, anyways.
Yeah, you're right.
AJ, what's up?
But like I was gonna further add to that. Like in Star Wars, you have a lot more practical effects for the aliens.
Yeah.
In Halo, literally every alien you see is completely composed of CGI. There are next to no practical effects except for the dead bodies.
Was that a mistake? What do you guys think?
Only thing is that's hard to execute with the elites.
Yeah. The way that they move.
And the grunts are kind of a little odd too.
Come on, if you could do Ewoks, you could do grunts.
Yeah, that might be.
I mean,
easier.
the legs.
The grunts are kind of like evil Ewoks.
The legs are real thin. That's the thing.
The elites and the brutes are probably.
Yes, I mean,
the brutes are probably the easiest to do. Honestly,
elites, right?
I think so.
No, the brutes. The brutes are easier. Yeah. The elites are the ones that are harder.
They have the backward.
Yeah, but I just think that like I do think that I guess. I think that like it was just maybe mishandled because I maybe you don't need like these huge wars, with a bunch of Covenant, but if they had done like battles that involved like one or two Covenant, every other episode or something like that, something that had that was more there, I just feel like if money really isn't an issue, then it shouldn't be used as an excuse as to why not to do it if you just do it right, like for example, like in the cave, and like that first episode in the cave where Master Chief sees the artifact for the first time, you have that's a perfect story setting of like there being one Covenant soldier there and there being some sort of battle ensuing there, as opposed to like this big grandiose thing that should maybe be saved for the very end anyway. If you have like a few little things here and there like that, you would satisfy more of that original Halo type of gameplay, I guess.
Yeah. He's just not going anywhere and effing ish up. He's just like you said, he's in the same few rooms.
But I did want to mainly talk about the idea of like him just, crossing that line. That is kind of interesting simply because, when you have a character whose entire 20-year existence before the show is a stoic, heroic, not that he can't do wrong, but that he represents, heroism and, a struggle between, being heroic and then defending the humanity and so on and so forth. Kind of crossing this line into something that's maybe a little too human, for the character. I don't, because it just feels like this moment completely just absolutely fundamentally changes the character, completely different from the game.
I mean, I feel like that happened before, though. I feel like this is just
but this went.
It did, but there was still kind of like a sliver of hope.
Super far.
This is like, all right, we're definitely cutting the cord on video game Master Chief and plugging in TV show Master Cheeks.
That's freaking Commander Shepard. That's not Master Chief. It's more Commander Shepard. It's more Mass Effect
Basically.
to me because the story is even
I never played Mass Effect.
more similar. Mass Effect
Yeah,
story is, I guess, when you think about it, it's kind of similar to Halo, right? If you think about it in the way that the show is portraying it, but it is very similar in the inciting incident, especially like the character Commander Shepard touches some object and it gives him visions, and that jumps off the story in Mass Effect. So and Mass Effect is also defined by you being able to romance a number of different characters. So this was that in form on the TV show. This was like Commander Shepard, the main character, and you could be male or female, right? This was that Commander Shepard like hooking
Right.
up with somebody. It was like that dynamic. I feel like is more at play in the show than Halo the game. It's more Mass Effect the game, or Mass Effect the show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know exactly where we go from here, and then we also know, because if you guys, those of you guys, this shouldn't be necessarily spoiling anything except for the people that have never played Halo, but Halo essentially is the main what was I gonna say, um the main premise of it is like, this huge covenant war that happens after the fall of Reach, for which Reach City is apparently in, and for 20 years we didn't necessarily know exactly what started the war, but it seems like um the show is telling us that this war, if in all likelihood, because it's most likely what's going to happen in the final episode, is the the premise or the prelude, or basically they're going to show how the fall of Reach starts. The show is telling us that the fall of Reach starts because Master Chief got too emotional and had sex with a captive Covenant prisoner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would really, really, really mess up the entire lore of Halo.
Because like in the books, it's really just because we've gone over this more or less before. Like the whole reason why the Covenant comes after the humans is because of that stupid translation error, and like them finding out humans are the only ones who can effectively wield Forerunner technology, and
Right.
that precipitates the war between the Covenant and the humans. That's pretty interesting. This seems pretty
Well, that's the other
Silly.
thing too, right? So like it also seems like, whereas before it's like, hey, we need to fight the humans because they're the only ones that can use Forerunner technology. Now it's like, oh, we need to like fight the demon John 117 because he is, a special one that can use Forerunner. Like now they've dwindled this down from like a human thing to a Master Chief thing. Because by showing that Master Chief is the only one that can access or use this artifact, it's showing that like, oh, he's the one that can use Forerunner technology. So I just feel like it's, I don't know, like it was unnecessary to say the least. So I am intrigued by the final episode, but more in the way that like you drive past a car crash and you can't help yourself but look.
oh god.
That's how I feel about it. It's like I can't wait for episode 9 to come up, just because it's like it's the same thing as like I can't wait to go past the crash just so that I can see it, but I want no parts of it.
Same.
So
Yeah.
You can
What-
almost say, because Halo was supposed to be a good show, it is strange that it turned out to be not as good. And why do I
Very
say it's
Not as
strange?
good.
Is because, there's also something else that's been kind of strange, but more so in the cinematic sense.
It was a strange experience, to say the least.
Yeah. I don't know if it was strange enough for me.
I don't think it was strange enough. I think it was a little bit too much Wanda. We're talking Doctor Strange
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Spoilers for this.
Doctor
Spoilers.
Strange,
Spoilers
and
for
the
everything.
spoiler curtain is down.
Guys, you guys have a ton to talk about Doctor Strange. It seems like more. You changed your name in the chat to Morgot.
Well, what I put in the
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
it also translates to the chat.
It uses both
Yeah,
of
I didn't
those.
realize that. I just noticed it right now. You really are now Morgoth. Anyway, Morgoth, Jose, spoilers. You're in spoiler territory. Please,
Spoilers. Okay.
what's up?
Okay. I'm just gonna come right out and say it right off the bat. I was disappointed with this movie. It was very meh, is the word that I used. I think after you finished watching it, Wolfie, I think I just said meh or something like that. It was very meh for me, and I think that the biggest reason why it was meh for me, and again, I talk about how you change the shows or change the movies in small ways, and it can really affect and make these things better. I always watch like a lot of great theory videos from channels like New Rock Stars and Screen Crush and Emergency Awesome, like after these movies come out, to find some more perspective. And like, I'm just going to put something like this out there because I got a lot of things that I would love to have changed. And I have even an idea how they could have made Wanda an even better character and villain, and how they could have led into Secret Wars, which is clear that they're obviously trying to do.
Yeah, there's no question about it now.
Right. And also included House of M in Secret Wars and made it awesome. But I'll get to that later. But one thing that I've seen brought up that you think about it, and it's like, why didn't they do this? Or I guess part 1 and part 1A of something that they should have done in the film super clearly is, where was Vision? Okay, why didn't she care about Vision? Okay,
I don't think she knows,
it's so
though.
funny. I had a conversation with a friend of mine about this too. It was like, what the hell? What, no Vision?
Here's the part 1A though.
Sorry, I had to interject.
No, I'll allow you to jump off and go for it after this, because the part 1A for me is this: like, how do you solve this and give the movie more stakes, make it way better? Why wasn't Vision on the Illuminati? We didn't need a couple of those people. Like Captain Carter is awesome. She did not need to be.
Yeah, she did not need to be in the Illuminati.
Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, cool character, did not need to be there at all.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people you could have replaced them with. That's the first one that I thought about. Like, why didn't you have Vision on that council? Think of the emotional stakes that you give the movie, having even a variant of Vision on the Illuminati council in that moment. Okay? So, yeah, go ahead, AJ.
It would also make sense because there were Ultrabots.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There were Ultrabots.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like prime time because, at least in the MCU, their origins, Vision and Ultron, are intertwined.
Yeah, they're intertwined, exactly. So here's the thing, right? Like, I felt like this was more of a logistical decision. This is one of those decisions that I feel that came from the top, that it didn't come from like, the people that are writing the movie, directing the movie, all that stuff. It came from the top. It was like, hey, we need, that female representation. And I think they wanted to get, like that chick fight on, you know what I mean? But it would have made so much more sense for Wanda's character development in the movie if it was Vision, and if she had to fight Vision in order to get those kids. Because then that would have really had, like, it would have juxtaposed her feelings about these supposed children and the feelings about Vision, both of which technically do not exist to her anymore. And she has to choose which one of the fake or alternate versions of these two she wants more. She would have had to like do some bad deed in order to get to her children, such as kill Vision.
Make her pause. Just like she's had to kill him before, she's got to kill him again. She even brings it up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So and it would have been good to show the dilemma, as opposed to like using the film to show her as like a horror zombie version of Scarlet Witch. That was just totally unnecessary, I think, because of all the missed opportunities, aside from the fact that like the Illuminati was basically nothing in this movie, which is insane because the Illuminati is one of the most powerful groups in the entire multiverse. And the way that you introduce it to people that do not know anything about the Illuminati is in this way, where they just get completely obliterated in like literally seconds.
You know, I'll say this much. I didn't have a huge problem with them getting obliterated because correct me if I'm wrong, Wolfie and AJ, like kind of in Marvel Comics, the alternate universe versions of our heroes often are fodder for storylines, right? Like a lot of times they get wiped out in order to show in order to show how powerful a threat is. You might get a whole team wiped out, so just so that you can illustrate that like once that threat gets to the 616 universe, our heroes are in real trouble. But like to me, the other thing was like it's not necessarily that they got wiped out so quickly; it's that they weren't there to serve the story in any real way in the first place because of the fact that they were just like, here's some characters that we decided to plop in as Easter eggs, and they could have served the story so much better by Vision being possibly in the Illuminati. The other thing that I thought of was like that would have made the stakes so much better and also set up a lot of the storylines that we are so waiting for. And I also have a post-credit scene that they should have done in this movie, by the way. I have so many things that I wanted to change that I think would have made it 100 times better. But like, why didn't they explore the fact that in the comics, Wanda and Professor X have a relationship? Like, why didn't they at all? Like, that's another way they could have made the Illuminati more consequential. Like, maybe not only does Wanda have to pause when she has to kill Vision, but also Professor X.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been a moment of like pause, or like maybe even a simple line like before she killed him, like, "You're not the Professor X I know," and then that's it, like that. Yeah.
The only reason why I say that doesn't work is because he is not tied to this Wanda's origin at all.
Right, that's true, but you can retcon it by adding that line then. And then you go into like some sort of flashback where you have some sort of connection.
Hold on. Think about this though. That 838 or whatever, that Wanda now is like even though she didn't commit those acts, she's kind of like Strange in that universe now. She's like public enemy number one because of the danger of having somebody like her that can be used in that way. You figure everybody in that universe is now gunning for her. So I think that all kind of makes it make more sense in the end, because I mean, like even though it wasn't her that did it, she's still this huge threat. So all the characters are going to consider her in that way.
You know, so my problem with the Illuminati is not so much that like she just destroyed them like nothing. It's the fact that the Illuminati they're on a certain pedestal of like it's such a highly influential group. And when you obliterate them the way that they did in the show, it just kind of diminishes who they are, their level and stuff. You know, they as far as influence goes and importance to the multiverse in general, the Illuminati are way, way, way beyond the Avengers or any other supergroup that you can see. Any kind of team up that you can see, the Illuminati are, you know, just like, you know, their origin of the, you know, real life human Illuminati. They're players in the background that make these huge monumental decisions that affect the universes. And so when they get diminished the way they did here, for anybody that saw the film, their first impression of the Illuminati is that they're just like some whack ass group. You know, they're like some alternate universe X-Men that aren't as good as the regular X-Men. You know, that's or like C level, B level Avengers in that universe, people that don't know anything about the Illuminati. And I just felt like it was also such a waste to introduce John Krasinski as Reed Richards, and then kill him off the way that it just happened. It was like he was literally on screen, like he was in the movie for no more than 10 minutes total. And then to introduce Professor X in that yellow wheelchair, which is such a nostalgic element, and then it not be our Professor X. You know
what? Like hurt me about that moment. I'm like, does that mean that they killed like X-Men 97, like animated Professor X?
I guess like, X-Men. You know what? That's a good point.
That's how he goes out.
I guess X-Men from 97 X-Men, that group, the X-Men that we grew up and love, like is in that universe.
Yeah, and they went out like
which
nothing.
Sucks because, you know, it most likely means that Logan from that we know from Fox is in that universe also.
Oh man, it's they did Professor X a little too dirty in that moment.
I think though what they should have done was show the Illuminati, but not have the Illuminati interact with Wanda in any way. Let the Illuminati be the cameo, the mysterious cameo, and then Doctor Strange goes back out to deal with Wanda after receiving information or whatever, or convincing the Illuminati to let him deal with Wanda. But they're just in the background, and it's just let's just introduce these characters to make mutants canon and introduce John Krasinski as Fantastic Four. That's what I feel like should have happened.
See, you know what though? Like I actually think that the reason that I like that is because of the way that I want to take this, and I'm going to talk about the post-credit scene kind of that I wanted to introduce and how I want to make some changes to lead to Secret Wars. I mean, for me, I love the idea that she wiped out the Illuminati because, again, that makes her the public enemy number one in this universe. Okay, but what you can do in a post-credit scene and what you're also setting up by having her wipe out this Illuminati like that. And again, I think there should have been more emotional stakes, but I like the idea that they showed how powerful she was. I do think they should have been tougher in the sense that obviously the smartest man in the universe and Professor X would both know that even that Wanda
You're killing me here.
is
You're
more of a
killing me
threat,
here.
right? Okay. But here's my thing. Imagine if the post-credit scene of this movie was introducing all of these teams, the Inhumans, the X-Men, the Avengers. Think about how many characters you could have introduced, not even during this movie, but at the end of this movie to set up the most awesome freaking Secret Wars story and House of M story possible. Because what happens, right? How can you create the multiverse collapse, but also have House of M in this, which is such a beloved story as well, and introduce the X-Men maybe into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the main one. You have Wanda kind of be like how, kind of serving the role that Molecule Man did in the Secret Wars comic. You remember that, of course, Wolfie. Like he was the key that Doctor Doom, who they could have introduced at the end of this movie, Doctor Doom used to create Battleworld and to create that one universe in the Secret Wars storyline. Imagine if they did that. You keep Wanda around for many more movies instead of this like fake out death. You have her as a much more consequential character, almost like an Ultron or like higher level villain of this arc. Imagine like the three villains being Doctor Doom, Kang, and Wanda in this thing. Because and think about how the multiverse will collapse, the final domino, what that could be. Instead of saying no more mutants, what if Wanda just says no more? And the multiverse collapses.
I think that would have been the best way to do it.
And right, and Kang serves, and I'll let you all give your opinion, but Kang serves the same purpose in this story as the Beyonders did in the Secret Wars storyline. There's like this force in the multiverse that's basically destroying it, just like the Beyonders did in the Secret Wars comics from a few years ago. Kang is that X factor, and this is how, in the end, again, you know they're kind of going to do this. This is how they're going to bring a lot of characters that are not in the main Marvel Cinematic Universe into this universe, probably like a Miles Morales. Once all the multiverses collapse into one, that's how you get all these characters into the main Marvel Cinematic Universe, including some X-Men maybe. But and also think about how much cooler this whole arc would be if the introduction of a Reed Richards and a Fantastic Four and a Doctor Doom was the whole point of the arc, and the X-Men. Think like from the beginning, you know, like not from the beginning, but like from now. That you introduce Reed Richards soon in the Fantastic Four movie. Doctor Doom's been introduced. Doctor Doom becomes the overarching villain of the whole thing, just like he is in the Secret Wars comic.
I think that is what's going to happen. I think Doctor Doom is going to be the next big bad, 100%. Simply because they mentioned Franklin Richards in the film, which is huge. Franklin Richards being one of the very, very few Omega level mutants. But going back to your point, that's what upsets me about like her destruction of the Illuminati is that like there were much better ways to show how powerful she really is, even though we already know how powerful she is. We've been like, it's been drilled in our heads through WandaVision and all the other Avengers films that show like how powerful Wanda really is, where she needed
almost soloing Thanos.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So we didn't necessarily need a new explanation as far as why how powerful she is, but there were plenty of other ways that would have benefited the story, the MCU, the next phase, and all that stuff. There were much better ways to show how powerful she is without diminishing the Illuminati, which again, to me, like for when it comes to comics, the Illuminati are, you know, the gatekeepers of of responding to events, because
but
the Illuminati was created by Tony Stark with Black Bolt, Professor X, Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, and Reed Richards, so that each individual groups and in their corner they can come together and decide how to respond to these, I guess Avenger level, or Infinity War level type crises and stuff.
well, remember,
So
they're not the 616 Illuminati. They're going to be dope.
I understand that, but like, so that's what I'm saying though. It's like if you're going to introduce them, introduce them right, or don't introduce them at all, because now the chance to introduce them with 616, like this could have been like the way that it should have been. I think introduced is this as the 616 Illuminati, and then Doctor Strange's induction into the Illuminati as Tony Stark's last wish before he died.
You know what else? Who else should have been
Illuminati
on there?
protocol, so to speak. Because Tony Stark did create it, although in the MCU he's already dead. So the only way that he was a founding member. So I think that this could have been a way to kind of like still have like Tony Stark's influence.
He should have been on the
MCU.
Illuminati too, at least in this movie.
Who?
I think some form
Who?
of Tony Stark, whether it was Tom Cruise or just somebody
No,
under
no,
under
no,
the.
definitely
no,
not
no,
Tom
no,
Cruise.
no,
Thank
no,
God
no,
they
Why
didn't
not?
do that.
No.
Well, you know
I-
why? Again, that's
Yeah.
stakes for Wanda. Then you have Vision, you have Professor X, who are kind of like making her reconsider. But then you have freaking Tony Stark, Iron Man, who even in this universe is
Yes,
the person that caused the
absolutely.
death of her parents. That sets her
It's
off.
not Tom
You know what?
Cruise.
Maybe like here's what they could have done with this. I think, and like this satisfies us both, Wolfie. Maybe she just kills the Iron Man from that universe. That's what happens. There's an Iron Man in that universe. That still makes her as much of a threat, still sets it up like I would like to set it up, making that universe part of what causes the multiversal collapse, because of the fact that they're all gunning for that Wanda. There's a couple of other things that I thought would be pretty great too. Not the least of which is I think that revealing Wanda as the villain so early was also a major misstep in this film.
For a director that's known specifically for horror and his suspense, I guess, there were a couple things that they did that were huge mistakes in my opinion when it comes to like building suspense. Is showing Wanda as the villain and the ultimate heel of the movie in her first scene was a huge mistake, because there was no build up to that. There's no reason for us to like, even though we all kind of had an idea that it was her, based on the trailers alone. There should have been at least a little bit of an emotional buildup, a little bit of more of a character development as to like why she's doing this in the first place, and there wasn't that. And then like the second thing, which I think was also like it, this is kind of like a fan service thing for me. I was really excited to see the Fantastic Four and John Krasinski as Reed Richards revealed. And that gets immediately confirmed at the moment that Doctor Strange and Christina from 838 speak, and she's like, she works at the Baxter Foundation.
Yeah.
So that's like, oh well, now I know that the Fantastic Four is in this movie before even seeing the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
So it's like, why though? Why are you doing that to me? Why did she have to say that? Why couldn't the moment that like we see Reed Richards be the moment that we know that Fantastic Four is confirmed?
Even Kevin Feige said that the trailers and all of that are spoiling these things a little too much.
Way too much. And it also was really misleading because the trailers made it seem like they were going to be like hopping over universes left and right, Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, they were like
they visited 2 universes.
Yeah. Or like three, I guess, right? Because the 616, the 838, and the Sinister Strange universe that was destroyed. 3 universes.
Right, but I don't count ours.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true.
Because we're visiting. We're not like
visiting
we're
to
not
Europe.
like, hey,
Right.
let's go. Yeah.
Okay, but
So
then
what about?
But then Marvel says, but technically we did. Remember that sequence when Strange and America were falling through the
you mean the sequence that's also in the
Multiverse.
trailer already? The one that's
Yeah.
already in the trailer?
The multiverse.
Oh,
That's
man.
another thing. I hate to say it, but like America Chavez really just felt like a tool.
Yeah, we haven't even spoken
Like,
about her
not
until
even-
now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's unfortunate because she seems cool, but like That's all she really is in this movie, a tool.
I think another thing that would have made it more interesting and made her character more interesting also, that it was related to this making Wanda the heel from the beginning of the movie, is there's two things that I would have liked to have changed. Maybe not, the second one is not related to Wanda, but I guess these are the last two things that I would like to have changed in the movie. Wanda should have been assisting the multiverse stranges at the beginning. I think that she should have been involved as protecting America, so that we got this sense in the movie, like,
Yeah, maybe.
you know, but also like at the same time, you would be like, why is Wanda there? You know, there would still be that thought process in our heads, like, why is Wanda helping Doctor Strange in a Doctor Strange movie to protect this girl? And then the reveal that she was evil should have happened around the time that they ran into the Illuminati, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what the idea of a multiverse does for comics, which is what it does for comics and what it's doing for a lot of film properties that are kind of run out on how to keep properties alive, is that it just gives you an infinite number of ideas and combinations of thoughts and things and events that could happen for you to keep the stories alive and the characters alive and things going forward. And it's amazing to me that a brand, a company that they basically created the multiverse before the multiverse was even like a real theory in human science. You know what I mean? Like in comic books, they were just like, hey, let's do this multiverse thing because we want to kill off Wolverine, or we want to kill off this character, but we still also want to sell Wolverine comics and stuff. So, like they're experts at this point. Like Secret Agents 2 and Nolan, all these other things that have to do with like multiverses and the intertwining of all these different comic lines. How are they failing at doing this on screen?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe the whiteboard that Kevin Feige is talking about is failing them a little bit, the multiverse whiteboard. Because, well,
maybe, yeah.
You know what a part of it is too? I think that Marvel is trying too hard to sort of keep their original promise, but also break their original promise where they said you don't have to watch the TV shows. Because this movie was clearly made with people who haven't seen WandaVision in mind, right? Because they have to like kind of summarize what happened in WandaVision a little too much. And but they're also trying to skew this line in this movie where it's its own movie, quote unquote, but it's still setting up a lot of other things, and here's one of the best examples, I think, of how the movie kind of fails in that area. You have what I think is kind of a cool cliffhanger at the end of the movie where Doctor Strange has the third eye that he gets affected by.
Yeah.
But like, we immediately resolved that in the first post-credit scene with Clea showing up and saying like, hey, you ready to go deal with this incursion? He just opens the third eye and he's like, let's go. Like, there's no struggle. There's no conflict. You don't see how he gets control of that and makes it into the weapon that it is in the comics, because it's a very powerful part of him in the comics. So there's like that fine line, right? I think is kind of making it harder and harder.
Yeah,
plus it's so complicated at this point.
I thought that the ending of the film, which was super Raimi, like every single one of his like horror films ends in like some sort of like, like screaming, zooming in and out kind of thing. The first post-credit scene really should have been the moment that he's just walking around and all of a sudden the third eye comes out.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we don't need to know about Cleo or anything else. It should have just been that moment where like we see the third eye, be exposed and him like yelling in agony. And that would have been a perfect way to end the post-credit scene, the movie with that post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm. That would have been a much better way, I think, with that post-credit. I still want my multiversal, Avengers and X-Men and Inhumans and all of that to kind of be introduced, and Doctor Doom, kind of standing there like, ooh, I kind of want that Wanda power for myself, as Doctor Doom is wont to do. But that was kind of a silly way to have like this cliffhanger that's immediately resolved. One last thing that I thought would have made the movie better. Again, these are all to me like kind of small changes, even though they changed the direction of it a little bit. And like you said, Wolfie, that's probably where they're going with the story anyway, because Wanda's still alive. Yeah. But like, what was a missed opportunity? Why didn't we get to see that Illuminati, that universe's Illuminati fight Thanos? That would have been cool. Why not see how they beat him for like 5 or 7 minutes? I think that also increases the
Well,
stakes too, where it's like, that they're formidable.
I think that there's just a million different things that they could have done. I mean, like, perfect example is them saying that, like, oh, we're not worried about Wanda, we're just worried about you. If they're that confident that they're not worried about Wanda, then show us an actual fight with Wanda.
I mean, what that also does too for me.
well,
Another thing, really quickly, is that like the movie tried to lean into this, but like because Wanda was such an important character, also they couldn't. They leaned into like the different choices that different Stranges made. I think that you keep that Strange around, the one that they used to defeat Thanos, for a little bit longer, and then you kind of have this moment where they're the Illuminati. This gives them more character moments. They're deliberating what they need to do instead of showing it after the fact. They're like, "Yo, this Strange just used a very powerful but dangerous weapon that's causing these incursions. What do we do?" And then the stakes get raised by another Strange showing up from an entirely different universe, our Strange. Like, I think keeping that Strange alive for a little bit longer, and then you could have Wanda kill that universe's Doctor Strange and that universe's Iron Man or something. You still have the rest of the Illuminati alive. You show that they're formidable enough to kind of fight her off at least, and then you can lead into the rest of the story elements that I think would make it so cool. But
yeah, I mean, I know AJ wants to say something, but this,
Yeah.
I just want one more comment real quick. This also goes to show like how I feel like they diminished the Illuminati so much. The Illuminati were so confident that they could defeat Wanda, and Wanda just destroys them, that it shows that the Illuminati really didn't know what they were talking about. That again just diminishes their intellect level. And we're talking about Reed Richards and Professor X, arguably the two smartest people in the entire universe, in any of the universes.
Mhm.
So that just, again, like, that's why I'm so upset at like what they did with the Illuminatis, because that Illuminati didn't represent any of the possible Illuminatis.
I just sent something to the Get Geek chat on Telegram that would have been. It's almost like a how it should have ended, and it's kind of like how Reed Richards probably would have handled that.
Oh my god, this is so good. This isn't only how Reed Richards would have dealt with this. This is how Jim from The Office would have dealt with it.
Yeah. So like for the audience, I'll tell y'all real quick. Like, it's the moment where Wanda's about to confront the Illuminati, Reed Richards and Black Bolt and Captain Carter and Captain Marvel. But instead of Reed Richards being like, Wanda, Black Bolt can destroy you with what a whisper from his mouth, and giving Wanda, like, his abilities, like giving away weaknesses essentially. Instead of that, it's Reed Richards going, Wanda, Black Bolt can tell you how to find your children. Go ahead, Black Bolt.
He would have never done that. Yeah, he would have never ever like done something that stupid.
No, he really wouldn't.
If anything, maybe any of the other characters, and then Reed says no and tries to stop whoever from like spoiling the fact that Black Bolt is that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, man. It's so this is, man, you keep pointing things out that keep making me more upset about the movie.
I mean, it was so meh. That's what I'm saying. It was so middling.
Yeah.
Because there was stuff that was fun. I think that there were some good elements to it.
There was a lot of good fan service, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think like the fan
That's
service
all it
is
was.
one thing, it's all like there's the fan service is not what I needed.
See, I think they saw how much people loved Endgame, and I think they're starting to get impact. They're starting to get addicted to the power of fan service, quote unquote.
Might be right.
They got to wean off that just a little bit and go back to what they were doing before. Even though people are like, we want something different.
You might be right.
But what they did before worked.
There is one more thing that really kind of annoyed me after having a conversation with a good friend of mine yesterday, who's a huge Marvel. He's a bigger fan of Marvel than I am, just because he's currently up to date on comic books. He reads comic books still, on the regular basis, and so he's up to date on all the current events, while I have a stack of literally probably a couple hundred comics that I'm not able to catch up on. This movie is essentially WandaVision all over again. This movie that we already got the storyline of Wanda, losing her mind, doing something really, really bad, and then in the very end having her mind changed, and then kind of sort of like sacrificing herself or removing herself from society. They didn't have to redo that storyline for this movie. They basically just already, and on top of that, not only not only did they retell the story, they did it in a worse way, and also in a way that diminishes the show now, because now anything that I felt that was good about the show means less because of the actions of Wanda in this movie.
You know, that's interesting too, because part of one of the things that I didn't like about this movie, and it sounds silly, is that Wanda was actually really good. Like Elizabeth Olsen as a villain, when she like got down
Yes.
to it,
Yep.
she was
She
kind of
was really
terrifying.
good. Yeah.
That's why
She
I
was.
was
She
thinking
was.
like she could be almost a Thanos level villain for this particular MCU phase, or at least a part of it.
Absolutely.
So that's why I felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. But I think that it exposes even more. We all really liked WandaVision. It was one of the better MCU properties over the last few years, up there with Loki and things like that. But it also had a failing in the last episode for me, because I think that the last episode, they definitely tried to shoehorn in this Wanda is redeemed storyline when the woman just held the town hostage for several weeks. And they were just like, like they used, Maria Rambeau's character to kind of to tell this narrative where like, oh, you're forgiven because like, you did the right thing in the end. And they said the same thing in this movie. Doctor Strange said like, oh, well, you let them go, so like it's fine. And I didn't really care about that. Like they should have leaned into, and it was also obscure because I think they kind of tried to do this with her messing with the Darkhold at the end of WandaVision. They tried to plant this seed that it was corrupting her. But when they didn't make it clear that it was maybe misleading her, because at the end of WandaVision, if you remember, Billy and Tommy are like, Mom, help. Instead of in this one where it's like she just decides that she wants to grab two random Billies and Tommies from another universe. Like, why not lean into that a little bit more, where you show the Darkhold corrupting her thoughts and showing her these twins of hers that are in danger when that's not really the case at all. But also, like, the biggest thing that I kind of hated is just like the whole movie would have been resolved too easily, and this is a multiverse problem, with her just going into any universe where Wanda and Vision are already dead and Billy and Tommy are orphans, and saying like, hey kids, your mom's back. Like that would have made more sense. Would have made too much sense.
Yeah.
The only thing I will push back against with the Darkhold thing corrupting her is that would have been good for any other movie, but with Doctor Strange, it's a little different. And the only reason I will say this is because in the past Doctor Strange movie, and even this one in some sense, there's the idea that it's not the power that corrupts you, it's the person. It has to do more with the person than
The
it
person
does the
wielding.
actual power itself. I think that putting this particular situation in Doctor Strange was bad, because I think that theme ran through it. If this had been in a movie that wasn't Doctor Strange, amazing. Let's do it. But they had to put it in a Doctor Strange movie. So, I mean, it's not like they're going to give up that theme from that first movie so quickly.
Yeah.
Especially since that's a very central thing to Doctor Strange. What did Wong say? Don't use the time stone. It's not for you. What does he do? Let's use the time stone.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
maybe,
that kind of
yeah.
that kind of
There's
points to
that.
another issue that I had with the film too, which is the fact that the entire film was centered around the Book of Ashanti.
It just gets obliterated.
It gets obliterated the moment that he actually gets to it. But two-thirds of the film, from the very first scene, was them chasing that book. And then the 2/3 of the film was them getting to that book, however they can. I mean, for God's sakes, he went to the Illuminati just so that they can get to the book. And then when, to convince him to let him use the book. And then when he finally actually does all the work to get there, it just literally gets obliterated for nothing. For nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what was the point of that goose chase?
What was the point
Absolutely
of
nothing.
stabbing the Darkhold? Like, really? Like, that's all it takes to destroy.
That's the other thing too. That's all it takes, just
book.
stabbing the Darkhold. Yeah. I mean, was it unless maybe
I think it was a magic thing.
They could have adding a spell to the knife, just to kind of make it like
something.
a mystical weapon, not just
right.
So like both these like super important magical, multiversal affecting books, get destroyed like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
One of them not even being used. In a movie that really didn't have to do with a lot of multiversal stuff.
Sam Raimi just needed some books in this one. He needed to throw some books in there. He always has a mystical book.
But that being said, even though the book got destroyed, it's funny because I was saying like throughout the movie that like this shouldn't have been Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. It should have been Doctor Strange and the Book of Ashanti.
Should have been a WandaVision movie, but we already got WandaVision. So
yeah, I did think that like the movie would have been they would have done a better movie if they did just a WandaVision movie with Doctor Strange as a cameo in it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also felt like that, you know, Doctor Strange needs some character development. He's been sorely lacking character development. He's such an important character in the MCU, and his best really only comes in his cameos. I personally really liked the first Doctor Strange movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people didn't, but this film definitely doesn't do that much for his character development.
I mean, his character development has been the same in both movies. He's a jerk who thinks he knows everything, and at the end of the movie, he's no longer a jerk who thinks he knows everything, except in the next movie and the next property, he's still a jerk who thinks he knows everything.
Well, the thing is, like, I don't think that he stops being a jerk, you know? Like, you know, it's not, yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's not
that he ever stops being a jerk. It's just that he understands certain decisions better. That's all. You know, that's all really. Like this one was about him understanding that he needs to just let go of Christine. You know, being a jerk is what caused him to be Doctor Strange. And that one, I don't know how being a jerk affected him in this one necessarily, but yeah, anyway, well, I mean, that's just a character trait. Like you can't do anything about Doctor Strange being a jerk. Can't do anything about like, you know, Tony Stark being like an overachieving narcissist, you know, things like that. Those are character traits we're never going to get rid of.
Yeah. Well, movie was meh. What do you think it was meh?
It was, unfortunately. So it makes me really worried about like the future of the MCU because I feel like they're dropping the ball a little bit, you know, here and there.
I think we have some hope just because Taika Waititi is dope. So I think we'll at least get a good Thor movie, and I think that.
Yeah, but like, are we gonna get a good multiverse story though? Because we have plot holes in Spider-Man also.
I think that once they do, I think now that we
have plot holes, we have plenty of plot holes when it comes to multiverse stuff.
Well, I'm hoping that they start leaning into it instead of being so darn vague, and like this is the part of the phase where Marvel finds that balance that they did at the end of phase 3, near the end of phase 3, where every movie did definitely have its own compartmentalized story, but also really, really well served the overall narrative. I think, you know, the movies that we're getting now kind of have to do that because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has to deal with some cosmic stuff, you know, probably has to deal with some multiversal stuff because we're getting to that point. Probably something similar, cosmic stuff, godlike stuff in Thor, Love and Thunder, and of course we're going to have to deal with that in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So all of these movies and properties coming up. I mean, Ms. Marvel looks like it might be fun. Also, like talking about the TV properties. Even though I don't think it's going to tie into the main narrative of the MCU too much. I think that maybe this TV show not leaning into it and the movies that are coming up, which will be leaning into it, might help us find that good balance again. Maybe. Yeah. I want to be hopeful because, you know, the MCU has been just a great source of entertainment, obviously, for years. And I'm hoping it didn't jump the shark with this film.
I agree.
All right.
Anyway, I think that's been a good conversation.
I think we just about did it. Yeah. I think we just about done did it. I think it was a great conversation.
Infinite is okay, not great. Master Cheeks is meh, just like Doctor Strange. Things are strange in both the Halo universes and the MCU universe, but we're hopeful of each.
Yeah, we're hopeful for the future of all of these properties because we love them very, very much. Anyways, as usual, I want to thank all of you out there for joining us for this amazing conversation about these things that are near and dear to our geeky hearts. The best way to support one of your favorite podcast crews, this is that reminder, is to like, rate, share, and subscribe to just about everything that we got, our social medias, Finding us on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts. That is, rating us on Apple Podcasts is one of the best ways, if not the best way, really, to give us some cred and some exposure. So please, if y'all could do that for us, us out here at the Get Geek crew would really, 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 really appreciate that. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wolfie. Thank you, Morgot, for this lovely conversation today. And yeah, what do I got to say left? All I got to say left is stay geeky, my friends.
Stay geeky.